Spyro, odwrócił się na miejscu, Sinliwa, czy poradzi sobie z midlane Team SK Gaming, bardzo dobry timing, losu kajtuje, ale no!
Eats chaos all over the map. Right, X7 are ahead of the play. Goodbye, Duel.
Now Shikari's in trouble. He's going to try and find his way out. Wait for the Shadow Surge! And the Rocky just goes wide, but a final auto secures it anyway.
Welcome everyone to the Amazon European Masters, where we continue the quarterfinals tonight with a clash between the back-to-back champions Karmine Corp and the last representative of the Prime League, the Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. I'm Kulin. Joining me tonight are Dagda, and for the first time ever, Noah from the Spanish LVP is here.
Yeah, I am here, and you will never make me out now.
Okay, we're never going to get rid of her. Dagda, for you also, welcome to what is the Amazon European Masters Studio. How does it feel to be upgraded from the LPL to this prestigious tournament?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, we hit the LPL, we hit the LEC, but then we hit the tippy top of EU Masters. And look, I like to be a bit of a hipster, so I get to say I knew all the cool players before they went to the LEC, you know, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think we might need to change the narrative a bit tonight, because, I mean, in Karmine Corp, there are some players that you might have seen before, but before we get to that...
vintage. I'm still in, it's all right.
100%. Let's start off by looking at the playoffs bracket, where both NLC representatives were eliminated in a clean 3-0 sweep. But this means two former champions in LDC Olympic Leona and Aegir Rogue will clash in the semifinals. And Noah, I gotta say about that, yeah, the best of three, or best of five even yesterday, it was a 3-0. Aegir Rogue looked like a totally different beast.
Yeah, actually, and they were in the favorites, didn't they? I mean, no one expected so much from Aegir Rogue that came in with a substitute in the last minute, but they proved to be a team that prepared in the last day of the groups, and they proven again in this best of 5 series. They came in with some cheesy picks with the Twitch and the Yumi and smashed Bifrost.
Yeah, I think they just came in, as Noah was saying, like super well prepared. Late game drafts, which meant that they could actually go against what was a very weak early game from Bifrost throughout the tournament. And you can see game 1, game 2, they just played to that late game advantage with some early skirmishes that they got the lead in. And then we got to game 3, even when we got the Jarvan coming in, even when it looked like they could get a bit of early control for Bifrost, it just wasn't enough for the late game fights.
And I think it's also worth mentioning the fact that, you know, Aegir Rogue, even though they were not expected to be the heavy favorites in this matchup against Bifrost, they do have a lot of experience in that lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And experience is everything when you come to a best of 5 series. We saw that there. Maybe there wasn't that much of experience in the side of Bifrost. And let's see if that experience is going to be enough for Aegir Rogue in semifinals, because it's going to be so hard.
Yeah, because LDLC are one of the heavy favorites of this tournament. We've talked about this multiple times already. Both of these teams already have an Amazon European Masters title, and one of them will be knocked out of it and not be able to prolongate or get a second time of that.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to see what the story is going to be, because for me, LDLC, like, this is the team that has the strongest mid-game decision-making that I've seen. Really good understanding of how to play side lanes, really good understanding of how to set up for objectives, and I think that's what the terrifying thing is for Aegir Rogue, because I think they're a team that in the groups did struggle with their mid game, but as we started to lean in towards quarterfinals like we saw yesterday, I actually think they stepped up in the mid game a lot, so I'm hoping they can bring it even further against LDLC.
I mean, I do agree with that to a certain extent, so be it that Aegir Rogue, you know, they have the curveballs, Noah.
Yeah, they have, and once again, they're not going to be the favorite, but you cannot count them out so fast in the series. LDLC is not a perfect team. They can be, you can make them bleed. It's have been proven again in the European Masters so far. They have a difficult match versus Unicorns of Love Sex Edition, for example, in the group phase.
Yeah, and from one LFL team to another, because tonight it's all about the 2021 Kings of the Amazon European Masters. They'll step into the stage looking to defend their throne, defend their title, and most importantly, to defend their legacy.
Expectations, an intangible weight that people put on themselves, and more importantly, on the teams and players they love. But expectations aren't just plucked from thin air. No. Expectations are the responsibility of success. When a nation, a crowd, a fan can rally behind you and they trust that you can overcome anything that is put before you. And Karmine Corp are no strangers to this. Born into the competitive scene in 2020, they started with humble beginnings, coming third in their first split of the LFL Division 2. Karmine Corp vowed that mediocrity was not acceptable for this team. In 2021, we would see the inception of a powerhouse, not only in the LFL, but throughout all of Europe. An LFL title, and the only team in EU Masters history to win the tournament twice, let alone back-to-back. This is the making of a dynasty within the ERLs. And what's a kingdom without its people? A kingdom in a sea of blue walls, a tidal wave of love, admiration, and most importantly, expectation has now become synonymous with this organization. And to make a kingdom, you need a king. A man who has conquered Europe and laid waste to some of the best players to ever have graced the game. Rekkles is a player who has played on the highest of stages. He has earned every ounce of respect he has been given, and it's someone the fans of Karmine, the people of this kingdom, can stand beside as they continue to expand their domain. But it's not been a perfect campaign. 2022 held so much promise for the two-time EU Masters champions, and the cracks are showing for the Blue Wall faithful. A third-place finish in the LFL Spring Split has left a lot to be desired for this team. The expectations set to this team with this roster may be too much of a weight to bear. Now, they come into the EU Masters knockouts with anything but a historical three-peat of EUM titles being seen as failure for this organization. Will this dynasty fall and crumble under these expectations? Or can they continue to push forward and create one of the most insurmountable legacies the European Region Leagues has ever seen?
And I think that's a very good question for Machine. Can they do it? Can they do a back-to-back-to-back? I mean, 3 times in a row, no one has ever done the back-to-back, let alone 3 times in a row, Dr.
Yeah, and I mean, just to literally come off that back-to-back to then add one more into it would be incredible for Karmine Corp. And they definitely have the talent to do so, right? When you look at the names that are on this roster, it feels inevitable that they are going to be able to take down some of the best that have hit EU Masters. My biggest kind of worry for them is, you know, when we get to those mid-games, it feels like an awful lot of the times they tend to force themselves into team fights rather than trying to play it through side lanes. And I think against some of the top teams, that's where they could try and struggle. And I think that's one of the points UOL will try and hit today.
No, what went through your mind the moment that Rekkles was announced as the new AD carrier for Karmine Corp?
The first thought I had was, is Rekkles really going to be out of the LEC? It feels odd because, I mean, is his legacy is built on the LEC, so it feels weird, but he found a new home on Karmine Corp, and he's being really supported by the Blue Wolf fans. So I think it's time for Rekkles to step up, for Karmine Corp to step up, and maybe they can make the miracle and be back to back. I have to say that for the first time, they are not the favorites to take out the tournament.
Yeah, but before we start thinking about that back-to-back-to-back, we first have a quarterfinal to play. And tonight, it's going to be against the Unicorns. It's a team we know very good, Noah. It's a team that we've seen in Europe, I mean, for ages.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking of legacy, and Universal Love is definitely legacy, but this is Universal Love Sexy Edition, and the last part is very important. Universal Love, no matter what, it's a team that is expected to overcome expectations. You know, they did it with their main roster, and I think they already done that with this academy team, because I don't think anyone expected them to be the last Prime League team alive in this tournament.
Yeah, and even when you look at like the history of this organization, like UL when they first came into EULCS, this was a team that was built on upsets. This was a team that surprised so many when they came into the league, and it feels like once more that's what UL Sexy Edition are trying to live up to, like representing the DOC region, trying to overcome Karmine Corp, the giants from the LFL, and it feels like you've kind of got players like Ruby in that mid lane, Lurox, who have already been to LEC, who've been to the LPL, to try and step up and take that throne from Karmine Corp.
Now, they are the last hope of the DOC region, and I said this yesterday that, you know, Prime League has felt a bit off over the last few years, maybe a few last Amazon EU Masters as well. I don't really think it was necessarily fair that I said that, so I'd like to get back to that point. It's like, you know, we've seen them in semifinals. Big did very well last time around, but tonight we have to look at this team, and I'm going to look at a player, Reptile, who's facing against Rekkles. You know, he's been put out there as the great. Can he contest him? What do you think about that?
Wow, you have a real challenge in front of you, Reptile, because you're facing probably the best AD carry has ever stepped on the LEC, LCS, EU. Okay, and that's a huge challenge. But now is the time to shine. You have a very big opportunity in front of you.
Now, Doctor, you weren't too big on Reptile, I felt.
Yeah, I think when I was kind of looking back over the games, like looking at that one specifically against Ego Rogue, I think Reptile, you could kind of see that he was, sorry, not Ego Rogue, LDLC. You could see that he was really struggling in that matchup down in the bot lane against Exakick and DOS. He ended up giving across a bunch of 2v2 kills. And it felt that Dreamer Ace was then stuck into that bottom lane, and suddenly you couldn't have him moving to support. support Ruby in the way that they usually do with Lurox. It felt like the game plan fell apart there for UL Sexy Edition. So for me today, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on Reptile to see if he can step up to match Rekkles in the 2v2, because look at the CSD of 14. That is an absurd number.
I mean, it is someone that we've seen won 4 LEC titles before, been to a World's Finals, all that when Reptile just started his competitive career in late 2020. I mean, this is, can we still, call him a rookie?
Wow, it may be overwhelming.
Okay, it's maybe a bit too much, yeah.
Don't scare the guy, please. But yeah, it's gonna be, as I said, a huge challenge. But well, Reptile, if you can be the guy that beat Rekkles, you can be that guy. You have to keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, that will definitely be your legacy then. The guy that beat Rekkles. It's same with Feven, right? When he solo killed FLICKR, that's kind of the same level here. Now, I do want to shed a bit of light on a different lane, the mid lane, because there's where SAKEN is. SAKEN is a player that has won the back-to-back together with Karmine Corp. He's facing Ruby, and Ruby is interesting because he has played in the LPL with Rogue Warriors, it was, I think.
Yeah, he actually ended up playing the same year that I joined, back in 2020, but wasn't exactly the best of stories to write home about. 16th in spring, 13th in summer. This was a guy that was very well known for his control mages and trying to work with Harrow, but I mean, kind of what we're seeing still in EU Masters is that he's not very good at kind of moving that to side lanes, like having impact on the map from a strong position, whereas it feels like it's the completely opposite story for SAKEN, where this guy's wants picks like the Ahri, the Ryze, where you can have that side lane pressure and try and make that move to help out Cabochard in the top lane.
There's a lot of numbers right now on your screen, and I kind of want to cherry pick the JP, that is jungle proximity. For people that don't know what that means, Dagda, what does that exactly say? Yeah,
so JP just stands for jungle proximity, and all that means is how often a jungler will spend near the lane. And as you can see, these two mid laners are top of the table for that stat on the respective sides, but the way that jungle proximity, the way the jungler plays around the lanes is slightly different. When you look across a Ruby, it's about working with Dream Erase to set up a Ruby to be that big late game carry. When you look at SAKEN, it's about trying to unlock SAKEN so he can move to that top side to help Cabochard. It's a very different style, but both junglers will be putting a lot of attention here.
So a lot of focus here on the mid lane, and talking about mid laners in general, I want to talk a bit about the champions, Noah, because looking at this Amazon European Masters, I see one champion in particular rise up to the occasion. It's the one that dashed a lot. It's the one in your screen. It is Ahri.
It is Ahri, yeah, definitely. She's the new queen of the mid lane so far. A high amount of presence in the draft in this tournament. Yeah, it's that kind of champion that you want to give to your mid lane if he's a high skilled player. You can go into that kind of flashy plays, go into the team fight, look for a charm, reset, and start killing everyone. Also, it fits really well in those kind of peak compositions we are really loving to watch into these European Masters. But what I love the most is that, yeah, Ahri is the new queen of the mid lane, but counter picks are starting to show up. The Veigar is the one I love the most, and I think you can't keep blind picking the Ahri without being punished in this tournament.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting to bring the Veigar up. And now looking at the Ahri in particular, I think it's a champion that's very all-rounder, right? You can play very defensive, but you can also play very aggressive. And I think that is something that we have to praise Unicorns of Love a little bit in here, Noah, is that if they want to make something happen, they have to do it themselves.
Yeah, that's it. And I love this we are watching in the screen, because Unicorns of Love is not a team that is willing to play in the early game that much, but you need to play the early game if you want to bring down Corp. And this is a game I really enjoyed. LDLC, they were being really punished in this early game because you had Lurox, you had Dream Erase rotating towards that mid lane because you have Ruby, and he's a player you want to give some advantage in there.
Yeah, and I want to give a big shout out to Lurox for that game as well, because it really felt like his Lee Sin was so good at controlling the early stages, where he was just constantly able to track Yike, make sure that he was controlling kind of where LDLC could put their pressure. And it feels like, again, coming in today against Karmine Corp, you're going to need the same story. I'm looking at Lurox to see if he can assist Ruby, if they can take over the mid lane, stop SAKEN from roaming, and actually have that strong early game that Noah's talking about.
Now, let's check in with your predictions as we're getting closer to pick and bans. Noah, as an Amazon European Masters fan, I have been pretty disappointed with the quarterfinals we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Is it going to be another 3-0?
I really hope it isn't. I mean, no, not 3-0, no, please. Even though I expect Karmine Corp to be the ones taking this series, I really expect as well Unicorns will love to put up a huge fight. So I'm expecting maybe a 3-1 for Corp.
Okay, 3-1. Is it all going to come down to that first game?
I think I don't think it'll come down to the first game. I think there will be one game where Lurox is able to get control of the jungle, but I feel like it's going to be hard to do it over and over again. I think it'll probably be a 3-1 going towards Karmine Corp, but I'm hoping to be proven wrong.
One more game. At least that's what we hope for. Karmine Corp versus the Unicorns of Love. Will we see the back-to-back champions advance to yet another semifinals appearance? Or can the Prime League keep their tournament hopes and dreams alive as the mythical creatures they are and eliminate the fan favorite? At least we could get our expectations up for our casters, as we have 2 LPL casters and one guy from the LEC we can't seem to get rid of. Right, Lucian?
Honestly, I don't even know how he ended up being here. This was supposed to be myself and Ox, and then Nymera pops in.
Turns out there's
we
like
were
a
just
intruded in between us.
We literally just went, wee, and it was like, where did you come from? But welcome to the caster desk, one and all. I'm very excited for this one here. We have some weird expectations for these teams, and we were chatting a little bit in the green room there as well. Ox, they're very slow at the early game, so we're not expecting fireworks until much later.
Yeah, I think critically what we've seen K-Corp is often when given the opportunity, they'll look to accelerate things around the top lane, particularly around Cabochard, and he can be such a pivotal piece. We've seen teams fall when they aren't able to defend against that aggression in the group stage.
And for me, you know, while we do talk about them being kind of slow in the early game, I feel like Karmine Corp, they can have more explosive early games. I just don't think they have had quite the precision yet. And that's the real question for me, because they've started to evolve from the LFL through to the play-ins, the group stage. They're starting to fix that area of play. They just need to find that extra little bit, though, to go that extra length and maybe get themselves another title.
Well, we'll have to wait and see as we all jump straight into picks and bans. We will be seeing exactly what they're going to go for. K-Corp did go for red side, which means they are obligated to go for that Zeri ban. And we're starting to see a couple of very obvious bans, but the one that's sticking out to me right now is that Misfortune. So they're obviously trying to put Rekkles and Reptile into a familiar matchup.
Oh, actually, the 2 AD carries in the group stage only played 3 AD carries each. They were the Xayah, they were the Jinx, and the MF, and you can see that 2 of them are now removed off the table. Of course, Rekkles, of course, had some games. Well, actually, both of these guys had games in play-in, so we have a bit more extended champion pools from those phases, but we're starting to squeeze that part of the pool.
Yeah, I feel like here, there's no Ryze ban coming out from Unicorns, and I feel like this has been such a big pick in the meta and for SAKEN as well. I feel like they might have to actually prior that as first pick if they're going to leave it open, because you do not want to give that over to K-Corp.
And a large part of that has been, it's not just Ryze in isolation, it's what he does as a champion, because I think that the LeBlanc does similar things, where you can get priority early, either just by trading very hard or by hitting minions very hard, and then getting out of lane, and then being able to affect the rest of the map. So, as you're saying, that Ryze being left up first pick, it kind of puts some pressure now onto SAKEN to say, what have you got to actually achieve this kind of playstyle again? Because it's not so easy with a lot of the other picks off the table.
Yeah, and the big thing as well, you're looking at this, we talked about the AD carries, and you have to go with the Ryze priority, meaning that Rekkles, out of those 3, the Xayah, the MF, the Jinx goes over to the side of Rekkles. So you are going to be in a little bit of an unfamiliar matchup, but it's so familiar that it ends up, the more things change, Ox, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, and I mean, this is Reptile treading new ground within the tournament. It's the fact that we've seen Xayah, MF, and Jinx, those were the 3 that both these AD carries have played, so they do give the priority towards Rekkles for that pick, but I think you can be comfortable with the Aphelios. My question is, what are they going to match this Ryze with, because already you have such a strong mid-jungle from Unicorns, and they go for the Azir, so something that can contest that early prio.
Yeah, but speaking of that early prio, that's all well and good, but what happens if you don't get enough done, if they are slower in the early game, then you're playing against a long-range AD carry and a much longer-range mid lane. You're going to have to find that X factor, some way to break up those fights and not just make it a headbutt in these 5v5s, because you do have that Realm Warp, you do have the Moonlight Vigil, you have these extra abilities to make plays, not just in that face-up fight, but this is not going to be very easy if it goes head-to-head.
No, it doesn't go head-to-head for any team. It tends, putting heads is not a good thing to do, in my opinion. It's just not something
Unless
you
you've got the harder head.
Unless you have got the harder head, of course. But
Rock solid.
Yeah, literally. Just go with the rocks. We've seen it so many times. I doubt we will see Ibo onto the Malphite, because we have seen it so many times right now. K-Corp know how to play against that on top side.
Like, we've seen like 3 or 4 different teams try and do something like Malphite into Karmine Corp and say, yeah, we'll just survive through early top lane. You can't. Not versus this team. They've specialized in blowing open top lane tanks.
And especially here where they have red side, right? They're banning a lot of the safe lines. The Ornn has been such a common second rotation ban from K-Corp specifically because it is something that is fairly hard to punish and also scales so exceptionally well. They're giving everything they can to make sure that Cabochard has that has a good matchup, and then they can play through him early. And as you said before, they have that solid backline to carry them through the later stages.
So
yeah, sorry, go on.
So no, but then you can kind of like, again, all cards on the table in the second round bans, right? Because you have both of these kind of like, look, these are going to blow open lane if you don't have a safe blind pick, and you can see a lot of the safe blind picks from Karmine Corp are starting to get, well, banned out by Karmine Corp rather. These are not champions now. There aren't many champions that can hold lane very well against what Cabochard has shown in this competition.
Wait to see now. They have got a blind, probably their support going into the bot lane. You would imagine that Cabochard will be given the counter pick there, and there's going to be the Leona. Very safe, solid engage. Something that can link up well with the Jarvan.
Yeah, and also, you know, we've seen a lot of Leona Nautilus between these two supports. Hantera has edged towards the Leona, but I think both will be happy trading those off. It'll be interesting if Unicorns actually offer something like the Thresh here, because obviously it can mitigate the Jarvan quite effectively, and it's a good matchup in Leona. But Fierce is starting to think about their top lane pick.
Because I can see it would work into about half the comp, because you can see the Jarvan and see the Leona, but then playing Thresh into such large outrange, it gets...
You'll never reach them.
It's just like, you're looking for miracle hooks, and outside of that, it gets a little bit difficult. Though, if you are going to have these big bursty combos, Moonlight Vigil, maybe have their Jinzo going in, maybe you don't have to play, again, the elongated fights when you've got that Graves ult coming over the top.
See what they want to go for now. The Graves has been locked in. That's going to be Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition. Now trying to figure out what they want to try and put in this bot save. We've obviously talked about the Thresh. It can technically work, but it would be very difficult in terms of execution. And you've given a lot of time over here to Karmine Corp to now figure out what they want to take into the Graves. The Graves can be very, very powerful, but that is a... I'm going to completely stop talking about top lane. That is a bard in the bot lane.
Not something I necessarily expect to see, but in theory it does work well into things like the Jinx, right? You don't have the mobility. If he throws the ultimate and it's centered on you, you're not going to be able to get out without using something like a Flash or a Gale Force, and then the rest of the team can just catch up. So it does provide, in a form, that long-range engage that they need to get on the backline.
And after the first 3 picks, I was kind of sat there thinking, okay, again, straight up, even 5v5s, that's not really what you want as the Unicorns here. Find your X Factor. Find another way to outplay these situations. Realm Warp helps. And when you have that Bard and the Bard ult, that Tempered Fate, that certainly helps. Something which is much harder to play around, though, is this early game Lucian's top.
I was just about to say, we have seen Cabochard play this multiple times so far in this tournament, and he has been so clinical with how he's able to get these advantages. I will say it has generally gone into tanks, so a little bit of a different setup here now.
It is generally into those tanks, but either way, it shows the identity of Karmine Corp, where they put so many early game resources into Cabochard and just leave him at a point where he's so far ahead that he takes over the game on his own.
Yeah, and I feel like there's tools for Unicorns to disrupt that, right? We've seen the Realm Warp being a fantastic one. The fact that you have a Bard who can roam, even up as far as the top lane in the early levels with the extra movement speed from the Chimes. But I feel like the problem is if you let Cabochard run away with the game, it's going to be a massive problem. But on top of that, it's that backline. I feel like you don't have fantastic answers.
That's what I was just about to say. Like I said, I'm looking at Karmine Corp, but it's very squishy. If you're landing onto the Lucian, the Azir, the Jinx, they're gone. There's nothing you can really do about that without blowing summoners. So we'll see what both teams are able to kind of work with it. But right now, it does feel like Unicorns have come in with a plan. They have a set of action, and getting that Ryze, like you mentioned earlier, Dan, it's just going to be so powerful in the mid game, and that's going to be somewhere we're going to really have to hone in on.
And, it does feel like, to me, you know, zooming out from the series and actually across kind of the whole bracket we've seen in the knockouts, it does feel as though that early game has come more and more under a spotlight. I talked about it a lot in terms of LDLC, and LDLC are now really that big team, which every other team is looking towards and saying, how do we beat that? And it feels like early game has been the question. Karmine Corp, they have tools to play through their lanes. Other side, Unicorns have some ways to disrupt that if they manage to survive the initial onslaught.
I think the thing to say is that, you know, K-Corp coming in with huge expectations, but they weren't the winners of the LFL, right? That was LDLC. And you look at this roster from K-Corp and the expectations, as was set up in the pre-show, with sky high and are sky high for this lineup. I feel like, you know, that extra level of coordinated play is what K-Corp needs to be competing for the top spot.
We talk about this all the time. You see a Jarvan, you need to be ganking. So where do you want to see this Jarvan going? What do you want to see him doing, and where do you want to see him doing it?
Okay, so there are actually multiple modes of thoughts. I think either way, you just want to get a numbers disadvantage, because if Jarvan turns up into a lane with Jinx out in it, that is a horrible play for Karmine Corp. I think you can butt heads pretty much anywhere across the map. So for me, it's less about where he goes, it's about the information he has when he's going there. So I'm dodging the question, but
yeah, I was going to say,
it.
You know what? That was some fantastic navigation from not answering my question, you know? But as I said,
it's color wig.
Yeah. Say something without saying anything at all. That's just how it is. But again, we'll see how it ends up kind of roaming around. Of course, you do have the earlies in Zhao, so that's going to be something as well. And I always love seeing this from the early jungle pathing, basically moving around the vision so you don't have to get caught.
This is kind of what I was talking about, though, in terms of avoiding the question, right? Because you can see down on that mini-map, there's already a ward over in the Raptors. Lurox dodges out that by going around the slightly elongated path. So 113 doesn't have a lot of information. Lurox has the first play.
This is good. This is a smart play from Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition, but they need to make it stick. There is no wards right now for Cabochard. They are level 2. We'll be hitting level 3 at the end of this wave, you would imagine, but they gotta go now. Here we go. They're gonna try and fully in. He dodged in. He's gone a bit early, but Cabochard is now just trying to see if he can get over the wall. He's gonna be flashed and followed. I don't think there's much else he can really do. It's gonna be a 1v1 at the end of it all, and it's first blood to Unicorns of Love.
And I mean, at least he doesn't give over the assist gold, but Cabochard, not what you want for that lane matchup, and just a really heads-up play from Lurox. Completely skips through the vision, avoids any possible chance of being spotted out, and delivers a perfect gank.
And this is exactly what I wanted to see from the Unicorns. A stable early game, hitting the points of power from Karmine Court. They have so often played towards topside, and by playing around the early information game, making sure that they're skipping those wards, really gets a huge victory here.
And I'd even say that early ward they put the Tri-Brush meant they knew there hadn't been a ward placed in return. You obviously know if there's a ward put in River if Cabochard moves there. Perfect information, a really smart play to try and find some favor in the matchup now. Don't expect anything here, but 113 is going to show up and just allow his bot lane. Actually, they might look for the dive. This is risky.
Yeah, it's a 3v3. Misses the Zenith Blade as they come in. They do have a little bit of a heal as well. We're going to see the flash cleanse from Reptile. Keep themselves safe. It's a disaster for Karmine Corp. They lose almost all their summoners, and they're going to be able to tunnel in onto 113. Should have the flag and drag very soon, but the flash forward, is it enough? It is! Ruby with a kill, and that is huge for Unicorns.
This doubles down on Karmine Corp, making a play on bot side, trying to recover something for them. We expected a lot of resources to be going top side, but Karmine Corp, they decide to path down a bot lane early and leave that on an island. But this is so risky. Bot has tons of early damage. Even though it's not the electrocute, it's still very high base damage from this champion. Hantera tanks up that tower for way too long. Good defensive teleports. Great response from the Unicorns.
And critically, the Zenith Blade doesn't hit. The flag and drag is flashed away from. The stun means that Leona can't even get in range. The cleanse as well. Everything was used so effectively by Unicorns. It was just better executed in defense. But I mean, I saw 113 there and I was like, they're not going to dive here. He's just going to cover them. I thought that was too risky, and it backfired massively.
It does feel, I'm not going to say desperation already, but it does kind of feel like they lost out on that first place. Like, well, we can't be having any of that. We've got to get ourselves some advantages elsewhere. Again, Karmine Corp are so used to playing from ahead, playing with those early game advantages, and I don't know if they really wanted to give over early plays to Unicorns this early on.
I was going to say, like, we usually wait till the level 6 with the Ryze, where he goes off, he realm morphs, and he affects the side wave. The side waves are winning right now, and this is a bit of an issue right now for the side of Karmine Corp, and they're going to have to make it work. We talked about the Jarvan. He needs to be ganking non-stop. He will have the flag and drag. There is no flash onto Ivo, and that's going to be 113. Picking up a little bit of gold for the side of Karmine.
And it's really what you want. You want to be getting Cabochard ahead. You find the opportunity. The flash was bit earlier. Not much that Ivo really could do to outplay that one. And just a solid return gank, and it's K-Corp returning things to normality.
So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I think those were two very important characteristic plays from Unicorns to say, look, again, a lot of this game is probably going to be determined in how much the Unicorns can get done early. Now, in terms of groups, in terms of the planes, of course, both these teams are planes teams. They've gone through a long distance in this tournament. Unicorns have typically been a team that wants to sit, get to 2 items, and then kind of team fight from there. They don't play for explosive early games in the way that some other teams have. And I feel like having an explosive early game is the main way you want to beat Karmine Corp. So it's good that Unicorns have shown that adaptability, come out all guns blazing.
And we talked about it. I said it right as we came into camera shot that we didn't expect explosive early games. We know that the Karmine Corp like to play towards top, but Unicorns of Love, they tend to be a little bit reserved. They go for the team fights. We expect, 25 minutes. We have big 5v5s, big epic moments. This hasn't happened so far.
I think if you're drafting a composition like this, though, you have to be committing to that, right? I think 2 items is such an ideal spot for them to fight. When it starts to get to 3, 4, that's where K-Corp become really scary. So I love that they are using this momentum. You even see now with the level 6 from Ruby, they're roaming up, they're applying pressure to the top lane. We'll see if K-Corp can answer, though.
Got to see, Realm Warp is around for Ruby. That's something which Shima was pointing out a little earlier. That's typically when we see the Ryze starting to get active. Either way, though, it's still zoning Cabochard away. It's still making sure they're a little further behind in that XP. Of course, when Lucian gets to Mythic plus that ultimate, you get that ability to really hammer down a lot of lane opponents and just making sure it takes just a little bit extra amount of time to get to that point. It works in Unicorn's favor again.
And there's a decent lead now for the Graves, right? 10 CS up, and he got that first blood, which is obviously worth more gold, whereas Cabochard only has has that assist. So just gradual things that lean upwards. You don't actually have to go for the dive. It does just apply that pressure and put your matchup further ahead.
And this is a big thing as well. We talk about, you know, someone who is going to be a pivotal part of Karmine Corp. It has been Cabochard. It has been this guy in the top lane and how he's been able to kind of work around some of these stats. You know, 4 solo kills, second in the EU Masters, or Amazon EU Masters. CSD at 14 plus
That's
20.
huge.
It's a ridiculous amount of stats. He's not been given it so far.
And this is something that we saw kind of echoed on the opposite side of the map in pre-show when they're talking about Rekkles and his own individual advantages. Cabochard does that absolutely too. Cabochard being set up for success and then using the resources put into him so efficiently. He is a real true carry in the true sense of the word in this game. And speaking of that, might be the source of a play again.
Here we go. They're going to get the magical journey over, but 113 was in position. He does have himself the Cataclysm. There is no magical journey now, and that means Dreamer Ace has to respect. So, a little bit of an early gank on awry, and that means the pressure in the bot side can go over to Karmine.
Yeah, we do see actually Lurox looking here though, but won't quite get in range. Early heal keeps Rekkles safe. But I do like the roam coming out from Dream Race because as much as he loses his flash, his presence there meant that 113 couldn't find a gank. And actually, he's having a bit of trouble here getting forced into the pit. But when your jungler's on the bot side, I think you have to be a bit cautious about overstaying here.
But this is kind of now starting to get a bit more even. Actually, the gold is only within a couple of hundred. Dream Race gets unlocked from their lane, but at what cost? They have the opportunity cost of blowing their flash. Of course, they don't die in that top side, but while that is happening, you're losing plates on bot side, you're losing CS in bot side. There is a significant advantage being given over to Rekkles in that bot side. He's gone top again because he wants to find some advantage. Has to really start making this work now, though.
Oh, Cabochard. He needs to be so careful. There's going to be a Bard coming off the back of this. He's not quite level 6, but can he get behind the turret? He can! That is the power of a Lucian with the dash. Keeps himself safe, and now Ibo might be in a little bit of trouble. He's going to need Dreamer Ace to get him the hell out. They're waiting for the cooldown on the magical journey. 113's thinking about it. They do not land the Cosmic Binding, and that's going to be in a little bit more trouble. Everyone from Karmine Corp's coming up here. The Flag and Drag does not land, but the Zenith Blade does. The Shurima Shuffle is good. 2 more kills, swapping over to Karmine.
And the problem is you're going for this play as Dreamer Ace with no support from your team. You don't have your mid moving up. You don't have your jungler there. So when it ends up getting extended, you don't get the kill. K-Corp collapse and they punish. 2 kills picked up and now a goal lead in their favor.
And it is, as you were saying, Ashin, it's not the whole team supporting, right? You've got one person going up there, but you think about some of the earlier plays made around topside. It was just, oh, one person roaming up. Maybe the support ends up there a little bit later, but Unicorns not quite sticking the landing, and what looked like good entrance to this game right out of their gates has started to get clawed all the way back to Karmine Corp, who are just out skirmishing and out rotating at this point.
Yeah, and critically in this situation, you don't have the ult from Dream Race to try and dive further. You don't have the ult from Ibo to finish off Cabochard, and then you just too overextended the lane. They try and, you know, stall out for some cooldowns. Don't let Ibo get engaged on, but honestly, Dream Race should have just run. You should have known that the rest of the team are coming. You have no flash. Once the Cataclysm hits, that's it.
And actually, one big discrepancy I want to really point out that is actually the difference between Dream Race and Hantera. Hantera, probably the first time we've seen them get involved in this game besides that botch dive, but first time they get out of lane, they make it work. Dream Race has been, feels like over-forcing it a little bit, maybe feeling the pressure of this game, feeling the pressure of the nameplates on them, that expectations which you were talking about before. But Hantera coming out with a much more efficient play in the moment.
I think for Karmine Corp as well, this is just showing great grit on their part as well. You started off, honestly, horribly. You lost on top side, bot side dive when could not have gone any worse.
Rough start.
Yeah, it was a rough start, and you've brought it back. You're now ahead on gold. You're able to kind of control much more, you know, larger portions of the map. And now you start to see with level 9s coming up to level 11s, we are going to start to see teams start to link up a lot more, looking towards those big objectives.
This is also where Azir starts taking over the lane a bit more as well earlier on into the game. You can see that base damages from Ryze's combos start to clear through minions very, very quickly. It's one of the reasons you can get out onto the map. That starts to turn around. Luckily, well, okay, normally in the case though, bot lane starts to shift around this point as well, where Aphelios starts to have a bit more kill threat on the Jinx, and you get to turn around to that priority. But because you're behind in bot lane, that doesn't even happen. Karmine Corp have weathered the early storm and now have basically the whole map playing out in the fashion that they want it to.
And I feel like that's the thing, there's so much attention from Unicorns put towards this top lane to try and stabilize the matchup, but I feel like this isn't a game that you can be satisfied with stabilizing. I feel like we said, coming out of draft, you need to be ahead if it's going to work out, and now K-Corp, they're in a comfortable spot.
Yeah, and for Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition, are they now looking opportunistically? Are they trying to find, you know, the odd number skirmish, or are they looking towards something else?
I think opportunism is probably the way you want to phrase it. Of course, you still have your Tempered Fate, you still got your Realm Warp, you have the ability to pick people off before, again, the Phalanx starts to form. But to do that, you've got to have your vision. You can see the Karmine actually
again.
across the bot side have got a lot of wards. One of those wards is stopping Reptile from backing.
So annoying.
And honestly, this might be enough for K-Corp just to go for the dragon here. Reptile was trying to go for this reset, but the fact he's not able to, there's prio mid, prio bot. K-Corp should be able to answer this, and now with the dragon apiece, they feel really comfortable.
Yeah, and you can see already, Unicorns of Love, they're moving away from it. They're moving towards that top side and saying, look, we're going to try and get as much as we can here. Cabochard is trying to clear out the wave as the Realm Warp comes in. He's already down to below half HP, but he's already gotten the wave away. So this is a dive, and Lurox, you never reset the tower. Oh, there's one! Can he get another? No, he can't, but in a 1v3, you take those!
Oh my god, what an absolute disaster! Just walks in, takes 2 tower shots, and dies!
Very rarely am I left like without a load of words to say. That one is just pain. It's just pain because you can see they want to make the play. It kind of mirrors a lot of what they did in the early game. They know they want to make a play. They just don't know how to make the play presented to them. This one, again, you can see that. Cabochard really forces them into this bad situation. Immediately clears out the wave. Okay,
Yeah,
sure, you got to tank this up.
Highlight the moment where Lurox realized he messed up. Sorry, got the circle on.
What you don't realize is that was a 2-digit score out of 10, and it was 0-0. Yeah. Really. I mean, again, it does feel like Unicorns understand that the time to make a play was then. He just didn't find that way to connect the dots, and not for the first time this game. Karmine Corp putting the pressure on them and seriously outplaying.
That's a big moment as well. You see the kind of rushed Herald drop into the mid lane. It's not a terrible use of it. If you can get the second one, which is spawning very, very soon, you will hopefully be able to try and get that tower down. But it does mean that you're not really getting the most out of that buff. So it is starting to look a little bit scrappy from Unicorns of Love.
And it looks like they're a little bit unsettled. Can't really read into body language of the gameplay as much. But again, they're not firing on all cylinders right now. And this is only game 1 of a best of 5. Bring down that a little bit and just say, okay, maybe have to start thinking about future games if a couple more of those bad plays come in. Again, it's actually not too far in the gold lead themselves, but as also saying, but you do eventually get eclipsed in terms of the damage you've got out, and you start to lose these plays across the map.
Oh, this is going to be a solo player committed as well. They put in a lot, but the Bard ultimate keeps everyone in stasis. Now Hantera's going to wandering around, not really knowing what's going on. Cabochard tanks the tower, but he will pick up a kill. He's ignited, and he will fall to the Bard. Now, can you get everyone else out, Karmine Corp? It looks like they should be able to, but the flash from Hantera looks like they might want to try and burn it, or maybe just turn this one around. Hantera is kind of by himself, so he needs to be very careful. They're trying to get this Azir in, but the soldiers just can't do anything. They pick up a kill on the backside of them, and Karmine Corp got too antsy.
Just a massive overstep, going way too close to the tower. Cabochard ends up tanking it up, and just an unnecessary, messy play there. Kind of an unforced error, but Unicorn's happy to respond.
Okay, this is a little bit what we've seen from this split of Karmine Corp as well, where they'll go into a situation, I'll just say, look, we'll just outplay. This time, though, not nearly as precise as some of the punishes earlier in the game when there was Unicorns actually starting off that play. So a bit of a reprieve now for the Prime League squad. Going to take themselves their first turret of the game, start opening up that map. Maybe they can start using that Realm Warp to a little more effect if the map gets more open.
I think this game's just kind of devolved into a little bit more scrappy moves as we kind of look at this one here, because again, this is K-Corp saying, we know what we want to get, but they just didn't execute on it right. And there's a Jinx ult that I didn't even see on the game, and actually, oh my god, no way.
No.
Does he stop him? He does. There he is. Anyway, but yes, coming back into this one here, it's a native 3v3.
Negative because he stops the reset, so he's able to move over. And in this play, Cabochard ends up tanking up the tower, and SAKEN comes in late, and they're like, okay, we have the backup. This is why Unicorns are so tentative, but because Ruby is there, they feel confident. And honestly, 113 Hantera should have just flashed out here, but instead they try and overcommit, and it's just very messy.
Continuing upon the scrappy nature of this, though, saw the picture-in-picture. That was another Bard ult throw, and SAKEN gets out with a shuffle back to his tower, but continuing to scrap around. I think when you look at these champions, particularly on the side of Unicorns, again, we want to see them making more plays. Maybe around less sets of objectives when they are trying to be a bit more scrappy, but it's not quite, again, working out for them currently.
K-Corp setting up for the second Herald. I'm going to say that if Unicorns could get this, it would be fantastic, right? Smashing the mid-tier 1.
Buying into your really first 5v5 of the game.
But that's the problem, right? Having to fight them head-on is going to be difficult to execute. Although, K-Corp are looking to have vision. If someone oversteps, right, if SAKEN is too far forwards, someone gets caught out, that is the opportunity you could look for. But it is Azir, not an easy target to pick.
Not exactly an easy target, but I will say that the vision control from Karmine there was scrappy. It was kind of not really all around the Rift Herald. It was kind of centralized around the pit and then nothing off to the sides, versus the opposite there for Unicorns of Love. But they kind of said, well, we know you're not going to go for it because we have all this other vision around it. We can see you're moving. We can see you kind of going for different things. And now, with the Dragon now spawning, both teams with a Dragon apiece, we're going to see TPs coming in. And this could be a very interesting one. Rekkles has no flash for this potential fight. This could be huge.
And, you know, with that word scrappy, say it enough times and maybe start creating a ritual which brings in the mystery machine crashing through the wall. Got to investigate what's going to happen around this one. Dragon, though, is Karmine again going towards that 5v5. Reptile looking for something.
1-3 is going to be chunked out a little bit. There's the Tempered Fate. It's going to land on Hantera. Not exactly the ideal target, but he's isolated and left on his own. He tries to flash his end of play. The flash will be good enough. See, now you don't have that tool available to you, and the Chompers are on cooldown as well. Both teams hovering over this objective. This could get very rough.
Yeah, now the plan should be to approach Rekkles, the one without flash, without the ult. They're looking for a flank instead.
Here we
Dragon's
go.
getting low.
2000 just under it. There's going to be the ultimate there from the Lucian. They're trying to go on top of it. The Dragon's left the pit. As you can see, Ivo trying to go for it. They will take away the Dragon. And now Unicorns of Love can start pushing forward. Reptile thought about using the ultimate there from the Ryze, but didn't take it in the end. Dreamer Ace goes a little bit too far forward, but it's all a bit of a bait. Now look at Rekkles. Triple kill for the AD carry on the side of Unicorns. This Rekkles is still pushing forward. He's huge with these rockets. They need to be careful, though. That's still a Xin Zhao and a Ryze. It's a 3-for-2 overall right now, as Rekkles doesn't know where the Xin Zhao is. They're trying to bait him in, coerce him closer, ever so closer, but Rekkles knew that something was up. He did not know where the Xin Zhao went, and now Lurox has to flash away. He should be able to keep himself safe and alive. Dragon goes to the Unicorns, 3-2 in the fight.
And ultimately, they never got in the back line. That's the critical thing. You no longer had the bottle, you couldn't close the distance, and then they overstepped, and this is where a Jinx Azir can absolutely thrive.
And honestly, it felt like Unicorns had done the hard work. They'd done the heavy lifting. You got the Dragon, you got the first kill. That's good. Don't push your luck, and they certainly pushed a little further.
I love how Reptile was thinking about going to the Rekkles. And he made the right call, but still, it's just they never end up getting on top of Rekkles here. Still full HP at this point. Starts getting those resets in.
We've unmasked the villain. It was Bard all along. That tunnel was not one to be taken. I appreciate the boldness in one sense, but now is not the time to be doing that.
I feel like Bard does always tread a very fine line between inting and carrying.
So, funnily enough,
Hero
line,
and fool.
The funny thing about the line, Bard is the one champion of the game I refused to buy. I was too traumatized by his release in Season 5. Many an ult got me sent into the respawn chamber. So Dreamer looking to hopefully not reprise that kind of performance, although he's getting caught.
He's looking like he might be trying to do a little bit of a Nightmare cosplay right now, because he's got himself right back to the grey screen.
We saw which side of the line that was on.
I was going to say, we can tell you which one that was on. But again, this is something we had been very critical of the side of Unicorns of Love so far in the Amazon EU Masters. They just go for plays where it's like, you're already getting bot lane, just trade it off.
But just actually recapping the end of that play, because we saw that pick onto Bugs, you know, a lot of crazy things happen. Zoom back up there. Karmine got just before the Baron spawn, actually took that second Herald, something that you're talking was so important maybe for Unicorns to get the break open, maybe that mid lane out of turret. Karmine get that extra resource themselves, they get themselves an extra pick, and actually it's a pretty good opportunistic play.
And I feel like the problem is, if you don't break that tier 1 against Azir, it becomes very difficult. You have to find some side lane pressure, you have to find a situation where you've won a team fight or caught them on a bad rotation. But if you have either the Jinx or the Azir set up there, you're going to struggle. They have so much wave play between them, and they can afford just to stall out.
And kind of touching on the other bit of the wave play, seems like ever since maybe Season 8 to Season 9, we've seen AD carries just get parked in the mid lane. You don't really get to have like your Kai'Sa or Ryze sat in the side lane anymore, farming up there. You become a controllable tower in the mid lane, and having this Jinx and this Aphelios, it just means that you are just ping-ponging these waves back and forth, and that second Herald becomes so important to break open that deadlock. And Unicorns need to find themselves a big power play to stop breaking up the momentum of this game. It's starting to fall behind.
One thing I will say is K-Corp can't really use the Herald that effectively with the Bard available, as his ult will just always cancel. So it does mean that it's not quite as useful as a tool for them, but if they do manage to pick Dreamer Ace again, it does obviously set them up just to smash down that tier 1.
I actually just realized I said, oh, they're starting to fall behind. Okay, the gold is one thing. Dragons, of course, there, but you see what happens if these carries start to go undamaged in these fights. Really worried for Unicorns if the game does start keeping on in this
Well, that's what we
direction.
talked about in the pick ban. It's like you're looking at the side of Karmine Corp. You have an Azir, a Jinx, and a Lucian. You will shred objectives and you will destroy health bars as well. If you're untouched in team fights, there is just not really a lot you can do. You are relying so heavily on this Xin Zhao Bard engage, which is so very temperamental that it's going to be a little bit hard for Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition to try and execute on. The one thing I will say is, right now, they do have side lane pressure, and they are starting to put a little bit of that into top lane.
I feel like at this point, Triumph Spike, I think Unicorns are still very much in it. I think when it gets to 3-4, especially when we get percentage penetration from the likes of Rekkles and SAKEN, who can just shred through the tank Ryze, that's where I really start to feel like they're going to struggle in team fights. So they still have a window now. They still have a bit of a goal lead, and they're up in Dragons. 45 seconds till that next one.
All right, we guys are going to say 45 seconds on that next Dragon. Do you even contest it as Unicorns? Do you leave it? You have to in the bank.
I feel
I feel like it's a win condition.
Or rather, not doing it is a loss condition. It's almost the negative reinforcer saying, you don't do this, you're going to be in a very, very bad spot. It's not a great situation for them, but Kamcourt, you know, speaking of that, Herald, don't have bottom position to ult this currently, and actually, Herald's not even needed. It's an
Yeah, I think it was so low, not worth using it, and I actually really like the timing from K-Corp, because they get the pressure, they get the tower down, and Dream Race, if you wanted to ult the tower to protect it, wouldn't have the ult for the fight, so a great spot to utilize that. Gonna try and keep applying some pressure, but now with the Azir tower down, very hard to contest at mid-prio. K-Corp move towards the Dragon, just gonna swoop down and establish control of the area.
Cabochard does have TP. You've got pretty much summoners all available across the board for Karmine Corp. You are still waiting on a flash for Dreamer Ace. From apart from that, it's going to be a pretty big 5v5. Ibo's on the flank.
Okay, ult's used, but Cabochard's coming in, just got 9 completion, has the Cyril, there's huge power spike for that Lucian. Watch to see how much damage he can do.
There we go, there's the Moonlight Vigil down. They're going to get a decent amount of damage done, but no one goes down just yet. It's very tentative as Ibo now going to try and see if he can maybe deal with Cabochard, who's feeling a bit of a 1v1. Never mind, he calls in his friend SAKEN to get the Graves off to the backside of the Dragon. Now, you have to use the magical journey to get yourself out of the back of this. It's Dreamer Ace. Ruby's on the flank as they look to try and make this one work. Rekkles is a little bit caught, and he gets hit by the Everfrost as well. They found Rekkles, and they're able to take him down. Shut down, goes over to Ruby. They trade it back 1 for 1, but 113 is dead. This Dragon should be. Ruby is popping off, but not to be outdone by SAKEN. Keeps himself alive. They're going to go for it, but they're only throwing one person there. These health bars are low. There's going to be a Xenoblade over the backside to stop the chase, and Unicorns get everything.
It's close. I don't think it's quite enough for them to go for the Baron, though. Health bars are low, but Unicorns, the flank coming in from the solo laners did so much there. When they struggled to engage, they managed to use that to get onto the backliners.
And what a bizarre fight in general, because it was Unicorns who did have that side lane pressure, they had the bot lane shoved in, the top lane shoved in, they had different angles of attack, and yet they still kind of chose to go for a down the front team fight. And of course, we're going to go into a replay to see how all of that came across, and what really stunned me in a lot of ways is how many of these tools are used right at the start from Unicorns to try and get themselves an advantage. It didn't really work. They took a 2-part fight, and the second part was much harder than the first, and they still made it work.
But then what I love is we see Ruby coming around here, and we see on the other side Ibo coming from this flank, and it just means there's nowhere for the bot lane for the AD carry to go, nowhere for SAKEN other than to reposition further towards the Dragon. And then it just means they can't really play that safe backline role that we saw the Azir and Jinx do in that earlier fight.
And we've seen it so many times, the cleanse versus the heal. You know, it feels like if he has a cleanse there, he instant gets it out, he maybe flashes away, keeps himself alive, but not having that available, not having that instant CC cleanse there means that he was just left a sitting duck, and they can keep pushing down the pressure, keep putting down the damage, and now Unicorns of Love find themselves up about 2,000 gold, maybe about 1,500. This is a much closer game.
And they have Soul Point, but the way they've gotten to this point is very surprising for me. It's Karmine Corp getting a bit out team for, honestly, because it feels like Karmine Corp, they were coming into this monsters of the team fight, monsters of the 2-item power spike and being able to play around these crazy carries, but in this game so far, Unicorns have been getting the better of the 5v5s, which is not what I expected from Draft. It's not what I expected from name cards.
But we do need to see Unicorns continue this momentum, right? They had that 2-item spike, which I feel like they were very comfortable on, but they need to keep the pressure going. Dragon fight in 3 minutes should be a big one.
Ooh, yeah, my lord.
I love how in the previous fight we had that as well, where you just cullinged the Graves, and then the Graves like auto-queued, and it was like, keep your distance.
All right, man. All right. I wasn't looking for a fight. Like I was just trying to see how you doing. You know, like, I just wanted to see if it would tickle you. But this is where the game starts to get a little bit tentative now. You have a lot of tools available for Karmine Corp. You need to use them more effectively. We are seeing the team fights get a little bit scrappy. And yes, you talked about the team fights being a little bit better. We will see a TP come out here. Does he have the solar flare? He does.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Ibo. You're up a creek without a paddle.
That's
He's just
not
going to
your
try
side
and,
of the map.
Yeah, that's not where you belong, but he's going to try and trade it back as best he possibly can. Nothing else he can really do. That's some good heads-up play there from Karmine Corp, and it means they can mitigate some of that early pressure on the side lanes.
It makes you see on the way pings towards Baron. I mean, the fact that Ivy was down, TP is unavailable. I don't think it's quite enough, but they should definitely start to establish vision in the area. It's 2 minutes, though, till that Dragon. That is going to be a pivotal point of the game.
The question is, you know, you've got those 2 minutes to sort out the map somehow, some way as Karmine Corp. You have to find a way to stop Unicorns being able to get those people coming around the flank yet again. So that was the real determining factor of that last fight. Managed to actually get into that backline. Cabochard gets that shutdown, gets that kill on the side lane, gets to push in the bot lane, and now actually they're using this to go towards Baron.
They would be at a disadvantage if they're at the Dragon, because obviously it's Soul for Unicorns and not for them, so instead they commit to the Baron play on even footing.
TP coming in from Cabochard at the top of your screen. Now we're going to see Unicorns of Love try and contest around this. You've got 113 taking down about half HP, but they've got the Dragon down about 2,000 HP. They can stun it though and put it into stasis. Lurox is trying to get himself into position as 113 pushes himself back and gets himself into the Cataclysm, but he's now dead. But they're just in a hot pot of just getting smashed by this Azir and Jinx. They need to make it work, but I don't know if they can because Ivo and Ruby are huge. They're still pushing forward, but they haven't got the damage.
Such a close fight, honestly, and it ends up being a 3-for-3 overall. Dream Race just flitting around the edges, looking to finish off Rekkles, but can't quite find it. 50 seconds on the Dragon, everyone will respawn, but no real advantage gained there.
We're even seeing out the end of this because so many champions just hit the ground. It was a huge, huge mess of a fight. But we are going to see that mid lane outer turret being taken down. We are going to see actually all of the outer turrets now being taken down from Karmine Corp. The map is starting to get larger and larger, but in this fight, it's Karmine Corp just forcing the issue and saying, okay, you got to come into it, you got to try and take that 5v5. And as you were saying, Ox, it's much harder to do that around that Baron pick because you haven't established the same level of vision control. As soon as this happens, though, you have the Jinx and the Azir in almost a perfect DPS scenario. You just can't close it out.
Yeah, they just end up committing too hard. This streamer shuffle here, you know, does a decent amount of damage, but doesn't finish them off, and then SAKEN sacrifices his positioning for that. And now K-Corp are set up on that Dragon, but it looks like Unicorns might just go for the Baron instead.
Yeah, they don't have to fight around this. They're the ones that have the 3 dragons in pocket. This isn't Soul or Soul Point, but it's a quick Dragon take.
Okay, and you don't have a magical journey. You don't have a tempered fate. You can't delay this. You can't rotate as quickly. What's the timer going to look like?
Here we go, 3,000 HP. They haven't got 113 there. There's the Solar Flare coming down as Lurox gets taken very low. He gets the smite down. It was so damn close. Now we can see the real fight as Ivo goes down. The Cataclysm has been used. The Aphelios is dead. It's 2 kills, the Cabochard, and the rest of Unicorns need 1 away. Hantera may have gone a little bit too far forward, but he's got his own stasis. And now they have to try and turn this fight around. Ruby gets himself with the ultimate out, but they've killed absolutely everyone. Disaster.
It is a decisive call from the Unicorns, but they just don't have the timing on it. They say, okay, we got this. We're going to be able to secure the Baron, but how many people can we get out with? Not nearly enough. Now you're against that Azir and the Jinx tower killing menaces. You're going to lose a lot for this.
You know what? I'm going to ask, with or not with?
No, absolutely not. Again,
on or off Gromp?
Absolutely off Gromp on that one. And the thing is, you know, I was talking before about the scaling elements. You are kind of moving past the point in which you need to take control of this game. And critically, once again, the Cataclysm is so instrumental. So many tools used to try and keep 113 away, but then he does his job. He gets in, slams the Cataclysm down, and that just deletes the Aphelios from the map, and then the chase down. The magical genie actually ends up helping K-Corp.
There were so many factors working in Karmine Corp's favor here because so many of those tools were used as escape from the pit. They were used as trying to disengage the front line. It wasn't thrown onto the back line. Heck, Ivo completely shut out of that fight by the culling, which of course we saw kind of just tickle him earlier. It does a lot more damage at this point, and now Karmine Corp, they do with this.
Oh, they're just going to try and pick off somebody. I think Hantera recognizes he is dead. Did not sweep away the vision. They get themselves a nice pick. It's nice. It's not game-changing, but at least Unicorns are still fighting.
I like how Cabochard and SAKEN could have cancelled the recalls, but like, nah, we don't
Is it a carry? No. Okay, move on. We
Not
need to go
even
resets.
vaguely interested, but now you can start to see the big items coming in.
Oh, Rekkles.
He's in trouble.
Rekkles. He has no flash, and he's going to be in a lot of trouble. He can go nowhere. Karmine Corp, you were doing it all so well. It's falling apart for them.
And this is such an awkward mistake because it's not like all of the Barons are gone. You can see that. I mean, Ruby's still up here on the top side, able to push waves into tower. And while we are getting to the point where Karmine Corp are getting to huge item completions, to get to the point where you take that 5v5 again, it's just going to get worse and worse for you. Doesn't apply to the split map in nearly the same way, and Karmine Corp kind of bought into that there.
And we see Unicorns finding those picks. If they can continue to do that and set up this dragon, that could be good for them. But I feel like this dragon is going to be that last big hope for the game, because we've seen the Blighting Jewel come in for the Azir. We've seen the Lord Dominic's come in for the Jinx, and those just mean they're going to be able to shred through that Ryze. This is a short-range composition from Unicorns, and if you can't withstand the damage, which you're going to very much struggle to do so once they have the percentage penetration, you're just going to get massacred.
Okay, so Unicorn's next phase of the plan, you've actually managed to retain at least a little bit of your Baron buff, still using it even on the one member. What can you do with this? Can you break the base? Looking unlikely.
Ooh, Ibo. They're going to put everything on top of him, and he's just dead. He just didn't respect anything. He had no flash to get out of it. They will have the magical journey. They will try and just lock down Ruby, but again, very, very tanky. There's a magical journey coming back off of this. There's going to be the Moonlight Vigil going completely blind, but Lurox gets revenge now onto the enemy jungler. They're going to try and maybe turn this on the Hantera, but Rekkles and SAKEN are still in the position. They go aggressive as Reptile wants the 1v1, and he gets it. Will trade away, but SAKEN with the Emperor's Divide absolutely routs Unicorns of Love, and Karmine Corp, they may have looked shaky, but they are still on solid ground.
And that'll do it. Triple kill for Cabochard. If you get him ahead, he will take over the game. And even though Rekkles goes down, he's there to clean up. K-Corp smash that fight.
And this is such an awkward scenario. I mean, you do have your bard in the area, and part of me just wonders, why isn't the Tempered Fate put out here? Ivo has no flash, doesn't have the ultimate. He's obviously in an awful spot at this point. Where's the disengage? Where's the communication? And Unicorns, they decide to let their Graves go down. Maybe thought it was a bit of a lost cause, but after this point, they buy into the fight afterwards.
And the thing is as well, Reptile does so much damage here and plays that Assassin Aphelios role to just burst out Rekkles. But he was so late to the fight, right? It was just initially Unicorn super overextended without their big carry there, and he ends up trading 1-for-1, but when there's also an Azir and a Lucian, trading 1-for-1 isn't really worth it. And now K-Corp in a really comfortable position, and this next dragon, I feel like if Unicorns don't get it, that's probably it.
20 seconds, and it is Karmine Corp who have priority over it at the moment. We are hitting critical mass. You can see it's just a Vampiric Scepter there for Rekkles waiting to be turned into a Bloodthirster. They pop down the Shurima's Legacy into mid lane. Now, where do you want to see Karmine Corp, they have control. Why do you want to see Unicorns of Love try and wrestle it back?
Okay, they have some control, but they don't have the bot wave push, nor do they have a... Okay, this is gone.
Yeah. Wow, that was quick. I should have given you a little bit more time. Apologies. I should have given you more time for that setup.
I blame K-Corp for that. That was far too quick.
Guys, make it easy for us.
All right, well, we come now back into the game. It was incredibly close, but because of that fight, we now have 3 dragons apiece. We are both sitting on Soul Point. It is about a 3,000 gold lead, maybe a little bit more towards Karmine Corp. It doesn't make that big of a difference at this point in the game. And we start to look towards the next big objective, 45 seconds until Baron, but where can you work with this? Because I feel like Rekkles and SAKEN are just getting too big.
And at this point, I mean, if you actually try and dive onto these characters at this point with this amount of items built up with the 2 Infernal Dragons on top of it, they are in legitimate one-shot territory. Neither team is particularly tanky. It's about who gets caught first. And it seems like Karmine Corp, with the wards that they're putting down, moving in force, moving in numbers, they have the advantage on that front.
Right, Unicorns, the fact they didn't get that dragon, it's 4 minutes till the next. K-Corp will take control of the Baron area, but I just don't feel like they're pressured to actually start it up. They can take their time on this one. They have swept out the vision quite aggressively here, though, but there is still that scuttle that's been cleared, that shrine, given some vision. You can see the Unicorns trying to push up mid.
Here we go.
Control.
Just going to try and put a little bit of poke damage down. Maybe have a Hex Flash if someone goes a bit too far forward. Cabochard went back and now coming back into the mid lane. This could be the final fight for both of these teams. Baron has spawned and the poke is coming in. That's going to be the splash into the Cataclysm. Ruby gets hit in by Hantera, but it's a bit separated. They've had to walk away from the Moonlight Vigil. That does a very good job at separating out Karmine Corp. Now, one person dead. Can you still go for this Baron?
Well, you've used a lot of your flashes, importantly, too, from Karmine Corp. If you do get stuck in this pit, one flash from Bard might end up...
wrecked this!
We saw it under the
It's gone! The Realm Warp's going to be coming in, but it's way too late. They've got the Jinx Trompers. Ruby is going to be trying pushed away. They need to try and take a fight here, though. They know they have an advantage. There's only a 3v4. They're going to go for it. The flash from Lurox means that SAKEN's in a little bit of a precarious position. They're still just hunting down Dreamer Ace. Has got a flash to get himself back over the wall. The TP comes in. They do not land. The Cosmic Binding as if 113 tries to sacrifice himself. It's a trade of jungle for top. you still have so many great damage dealers here on Karmine Corp, and Unicorns Love have to respect it.
Even though they got that initial pick, even though they managed to take out
Jinx ult.
managed to take out 113 there, it just doesn't matter until you get on top of these carries. They're such a massive threat. Baron secured from K-Corp. They can be happy with that takeaway. And man, I feel like this fight, the problem with it was SAKEN and Rekkles just couldn't really do damage, right? Smokescreen initially zones away Rekkles there, and then we have the Tempered Fate, which gets thrown down on SAKEN. So Hantera and 113 are kind of overextended without the follow-up damage.
And this is kind of a little, I'm not going to call it a flaw, but it's a feature of the Karmine Core composition where, again, you're just not very tanky, and while you are ahead in terms of your own damage, it doesn't stop Unicorns having their own damage too. You can see how much damage individual skills are doing to their backline, and no one's really wanting to stand there and face the brunt of what the Unicorns can throw on the turnaround.
You can see as well, just in those small little moments, Karmine Corp just outrange Unicorns of Love so heavily that even though SAKEN overextends completely for that ultimate, they get the CC down, they can't walk forward into him.
I think the problem as well is even if you find a situation where you can take out Rekkles, take out Cabochard, they're still SAKEN, right? If you take out one or two, if the other is in a position to clean up, you still lose the fight at the end of the day. And those three are so incredibly strong at this point, closing in on full build. In fact, Cabochard is full build, and now getting control of the Dragon area. This is sold for either team.
Listen, this is the big moments. This is where these tournaments are made and broken.
So very tanky. Still Leona pops that W and gives himself a lot of resistances. There's going to be the Crescent Guard to keep Lurox very healthy, but now he doesn't have access to that tool. It's just Karmine Corp suffocating the vision, making sure that Unicorns of Love Sexy can't walk forward. Cabochard, you have to be very careful, my friend. You can get chunked out just as much.
And you look at Graves having the ultimate, has a collector. That could be a very free GA pop down. It is, again, a story of who gets picked first. It's who oversteps that first time. And that's where the mentality in these late game scenarios, which is so hard to train, comes into effect. We know that there's a lot of expertise on both teams, a lot of tenure on both teams. They need to put it to the test here again.
Here, let's have a look now. A quick little test of what you got available. GA there for Cabochard, which you just mentioned. You've got double stopwatches here for Unicorns of Love. You've got one on Ibo and one on Reptile. They could be key. You're a full build on Ruby. He's as tanky as he's ever going to be. And Nox, it's a tentative walk forward, but you have to fight this.
It's all about the carries on K-Corp. If they can gap close onto them, they will blow them up, but that is the big question, if they can connect.
So you're looking at all ultimates soon, ready and available again. Crescent Guard just comes up, and once again, we're in the 5v5.
Yes, we're going to see them both going in and try and make this. Remember, this will be shredded down by the AD carries. They have a realm up to bring someone on the backside of Ibo as he tries to make himself useful. He's gone. Delete it. Where did he go? But now they're going to try and make this dragon their own. They will secure it. But at what cost? Can Karmine Corp get this damage down? They're trying to make this one work. A flash away by Reptile. He's still doing the damage on the backside. Cabochard needs to back away because he's on absolutely nothing. He'll pick up Dreamer Ace, but lose his GA. The Infernal Soul goes over to Unicorns, but they've got some massive timers.
Again, it's at what cost? You're losing 3 members, and yeah, you take down 1 in a GA, but you've got to stop the push.
Cabochard has TP. They're going to try and look for the end here. I've got a feel they can keep the minion alive if they try and clear it out. Ooh. 2 members to defend, and still 20 seconds. Edge's going to go for this.
They're going to go for it. They know that this is the moment because with the Infernal Soul now in the back pocket of Unicorns of Love, that's a lot of damage there onto Hantera. We can see there, they're moving forward. Cabochard gets rooted, has to go golden. Now, will he be caught out? The Solar Flare is good, but not quite good enough. The root, the flash forward, the shutdown, and now Rekkles might be getting caught out here by the Gravitum gun. Unicorns of Love have got a bit of momentum. They survive the base.
And all this time, I was looking at SAKEN, I was looking at the flash, but look at the TP.
It's a bit too far away. I don't know if they're going to be able to find it, but it's going for another one. It's a double TP as they try and see where they can catch someone out. Unicorns of Love, they smell blood in the water.
Ruby doesn't have that ultimate, doesn't have that realm up, but they're still chasing.
Oh, Hantera.
They get out.
They get out. We can all take a sigh of relief, but Baron spawning at minute 20. 113 pops himself an elixir to keep himself alive. They do use the Tempered Fate and the Realm Warp, but then they can turn this one around. It's Karmine Corp trying to make this one work. Rekkles on the backside, trying to see if he can do the damage, but he has to get himself away. You've got so much there. SAKEN is taken out, and Karmine Corp, they go for the sneaky play. They go for the little bit of cheese to add to their wine, and it ends disastrously.
See, that's the redemption putting down. Hantera, Rekkles corner, rock in a hard place.
They've got nowhere to go, nowhere to be, and now it's Cabochard all by himself to try and defend. There's not a great amount of waves available to them. They may try to end through top.
40 seconds, the mini wave so far away. They can definitely do damage to the base, but I don't think they'll be able to end off this push.
Cabo.
Well, it takes one more pick, though. It takes one more pick. He's going for it, though.
Going for it. He's trying to get onto Ruby, but he's so tanky. He's just got so much. Now Cabo's caught between a rock and a hard place. Trying to turn this one all the way around. Will flash forward. Trying to get something, but will get him out of the magical journey. Cabo is keeping Karmine Corp in this for as long as he possibly can, and Baron's spawning.
The solo mission to find a pick, buy some time, and stop Unicorns from making any more of that push. And now, Dream Race is down for such a long time. He's the wards for Unicorns. Looks like they might just stop the Baron on spawn, though.
And you know what we were talking about in terms of those late game instincts, so hard to train, but Cabochard's been around for a while. He knows how to make the most out of them. Teleport from SAKEN, this could be a potential contest. 1-1-3's in the area.
It's definitely a contest. They know it's going down, and that means the Unicorns of Love, they have to back away. There's the Super Mega Death Rocket, just in case, but they can shred this just as quickly.
Even faster, even. You've got the Azir stood behind that pit. 1-1-3. Tanky enough to actually tank it this time, though.
They could put the TP into mid lane. There's pings going down onto it as well. So this is all or nothing right now. Both teams are basically critical mass. We're going to see SAKEN going in, but he's going to get caught out and force the flash away. Now you have no Cataclysm. Lurox has to use his own defensive ultimate. But in the mid lane, it's going to be Dream Race to defend it. 1-1-3 does not go down. Lurox as well, so low. Both these teams playing on the edge.
There is smoke and mirrors, and then there is this. This is going to be the back and the fourth. 1-1-3. Doesn't take much to take him down. Baron does a lot of damage.
They do a lot of damage, but I think he should be fine to keep himself up, and they will secure it on the side of Karmine Corp. This game off.
I feel like so much analysis goes out the window at this point. It's just coming down to that raw execution and who pulls the trigger, who finds the window. Both teams so hesitant to approach because everyone feels so squishy in these late game scenarios, but K-Corp get the edge. They manage to hold on for long enough. The mid-inhib does enough work with it being down, and they do secure that Baron. The Unicorns aren't ready to give up any space around this Dragon area. Elder is the next objective to look towards.
But you're still sat here now, and actually the items are starting to even out. Full items on your mid and your AD carry. Yes, you have the longer range scaling carries and all the rest of it in Karmine Corp, but one mistake can lead to a kill. One kill can lead to this whole first game going against you. And I tell you, if you don't have popcorn with you, go get some. Maybe actually wait around.
I was just about to say, no, don't go anywhere.
Okay, so if you don't have any popcorn, I'm very sad for you. Get it for next game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's going to be huge to see exactly who can come out of this one. And this is the momentum of this game into this series could be massive for either of these teams. Tit for tat, toe to toe. And Rekkles needs to be careful. He's taking a bit of damage, as is Ruby. And they're going to be able to try and take this tier 2 now on the bot side. Lurox, you need to be careful, buddy. You're very much by yourself. And yet, Crescent Guard traded for the Solar Flare. Should be able to keep himself alive as I say that. 1-1-3 goes in, and they try to take that Lurox down, but they got not enough damage in mind. What happened?
It's got the Death Stance. The Death Stance, it bleeds down, it burns down.
It ticked away.
And Karmine Corp, they find that moment to waste that Crescent Guard. No, there's no ultimate after that point, no flash, and Karmine Corp finding that pick could be so huge for them.
Moonlight Vigil down onto Rekkles. He will take an absolute massive chunk as they look to try and make this one work. Reptile, it feels like it's all on him. He needs to make the poke work.
But critically, no jungler for Unicorns. The reset's going to come in from K-Corp, the empowered recall with the Baron, and they can get to that Elder and have 10 seconds before the Xin Zhao is ult. As Xin Zhao is up, this is going to be such a hard contest, but we see the replay, and Lurox just overextended here. Ends up taking so much damage, trapped in the Cataclysm. 1-1-3, trapping him, but not committing to stay, and just the damage is enough with that Death Dance tick.
And it does feel like that Xin Zhao flash is quickly becoming, or has been for a while, probably the most valuable summoner on the map, because he has to get it so quickly. They're going to be hit too late. Maybe some Miracle Graves?
No, they're going to go Miracle Graves, but it is a Miracle stall right now. Ivo has nowhere to go. They're going to try and steal this one out, but they cannot. Elder has been secured. The top laner is dead, and there is blood in the water as Karmine Corp are hunting. They know they are stronger. They know they can take this game. Cataclysm down onto the carries. That is Ruby, and he's going to be taken out. You will lose your jungler, and it is still going to be Reptile to try and hold this, but I don't think they can do it.
Going to be so hard to defend against his push. The empowered minions and the threat of the burn as well. Unicorns are 2 members down. This should just be the end.
You're really looking for just a miracle from Reptile, but he doesn't have the Moonlight Vigil. He doesn't have enough mileage. At least they don't have the empowered Baron. They don't have the ability to take down these minions, but all it takes is, again, just one step too far forward. Your margins of error getting ever so much smaller.
How is this game still going? They can't end. They don't have pressure in top or mid.
And you know, really, the big reason why they haven't been able to end, and for all of the name value on Rekkles and how his stats have looked so great in the group stage, he's continuing to coat down so much damage. Reptile on the other side has really stepped up in this first game. I think a lot of us were expecting Reptile to be a player that was going to be really playing second fiddle to so many others in this series. And of course, we see that the Elder goes down as you're kind of removed of a lot of options, but just the threat of the Aphelios becomes so all-encompassing when you're diving into him.
And I think you saw K-Corp thinking this is the end. You see SAKEN flash in to try and finish a Bible. You saw Rekkles even flash over the wall. They were thinking this is game over. And the thing is, Elder has a minute left. They've just reset, they're coming back from the base, but it is going to time out probably before the game ends, and we no longer have summoners, no flash available for SAKEN or Rekkles.
You know what we also don't have? Boots, apparently.
I was going to say, the AD carries right now have sold away their boots, are moving towards
the shoes are off.
Yeah, the shoes are off, the gloves are off, and this is going to be down between Rekkles and Reptile. The mids as well have to be facilitators to make sure these AD carries can go for it. It is not going to be a push to end just yet. You still have a couple of seconds left on this Elder Drake, but the wave clear is significant with this Inferno gone.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, you don't have that Baron buff. You're dealing into so much DPS. Oh, Ruby's taking damage though.
Oh, Ruby. Don't know if you're going to be enjoying that one there. That means you're going to have the Locket and the Redemption coming out for the first time in a while. We might even see 4 items onto a support. That's how long this game is going. 47 minutes into the scaling is exactly what you want to be looking at. But now we might have the final fight. TP is coming in off the backside of this.
Ryze.
This is going to be the Ryze trying to make this one work for his team. Ruby has no vision on top of him, so they don't know he's coming in onto this. Dreamer Ace gets chunked. There's the Bardal. The Temper Fate is good. Rekkles is separated. And Rekkles is assassinated. Now the fight for Unicorns can really happen. The resurrection for Cabochard is nothing. Unicorns are still fighting, and Unicorns will get them the kill.
And there's smoke, there's mirrors, and there is magic from Unicorns. A Love Sexy Edition. What a hard-fought game, but that is a huge team fight win.
And there's long death timers. They should just be able to push up mid and then this one out. It's only 113 alive. The minion wave is small, though. Actually, I feel like if he clears this out, if he smites the cannon,
I don't think they can do it.
Well, we can see. I think you have to just tank the turret. And
here we go.
Remember, minions get a lot faster later into the game nowadays. They have to. Okay, 1-3. What can you do? Where's your wave clear?
Where's your wave clear? Indeed, he's going to use it all. Try and go into stasis. Delay. 20 seconds until Rekkles. The cannon is still alive. They actually do have a TP. They're going to be able to keep this one going. I think Unicorns have done it.
They might have just done it. They managed to protect that minion and go towards the Nexus.
What a game one here between the Dark Region and the LFL. This is the best of 5, gentlemen. This is the best of 5.
We've had to sit here and watch.
sweating.
We've had to sit here and watch 2 0-3s in a row, 2 3-0s. We've had some pretty big blowout games, and it seems to be all being made up in this first game. We've got so much more excitement left to go.
That was the most kills in a game at EU Masters 2022. 56.
No surprise.
It was also, another not surprise, the longest game at EU Masters 2022. 49 minutes and 42 seconds. What an incredible game right there. And honestly, this is going to be huge for this series because now Unicorns, they know they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they managed to bring that one back, despite the fact we talked heavily about the issues with getting on the backline carries, the scaling that was available to the side of K-Corp with the Jinx Azir, but it wasn't enough. They found the window and they managed to bring it back.
Well, we're going to take a little break. We're going to have a little moment to ourselves. We're going to send you guys, get your popcorn, get your drinks, because this one is going to be a banger. When we return, the analyst desk will be around to break down what was just chaos incarnate. We'll see you guys very soon.
Hold me.
Systems are overloading. We can't risk another game.
We need to take a break and regroup.
We're starting to lose our mind. Captain, we cannot go back to Elo Hell. Last time it took us months to get out of it.
Initiate break protocol.
Hurry up!
Yes! Yes! I did it! We did it! We did it!
Even the biggest champ needs a break.